to know that. Well, what I'm doing, I talked to Gabrielle last night.
Yeah.
And this is something I started for the large amount of time. So the idea is to have cryptographic software that you can host in a trusted environment. And the idea is to make sure your keys are kept secret and to be able to manage them through the cloud. So Gabrielle's been made all the and they're not committed to implement it, but they're looking at that.
Right, well, different parts of Microsoft need different.
Yeah. That's,
I work mostly on Google
okay.
security protocols for that.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah,
So the passwordless sign-in is one of the places
okay, yeah,
where we want to have securely held keys used for. Very good.
Okay. Okay.
And it's just, the other thing is that from a processing standpoint, it's just one other layer.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Just checking in. I'm sure everything's good here.
Okay.
Are you going to be presenting from your laptop?
That's a
or-
pending no from next.
Oh,
Press the button. Yeah, we did not intend
okay.
to write our email. Did we send the Bluetooth? No. This is ours.
Yes.
Oh, now, none.
So will you be using the computer? I just want to make sure that we're having issues with that. It's like it's turned on, so.
So do you think you leave that here?
All the crypto
Bring it somewhere.
The blue sheets? Should drop it off at registration.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
You look tired.
I did get to sleep yesterday. So
Okay.
No, Stephanie took over for the morning since I helped stay after the plenary. So I got to sleep until 10:30. I know. My first day sleeping with him. Yeah, it's always a bummer. I never get to sleep because I have a toddler at home. So yeah. She wakes up at 6 a.m. every morning. Huh? No, she's back at home. Yeah. She's with her dad and grandparents. So they took her to Disneyland. Yeah. I jumped right back into it. Right, guys.
Good evening, everyone. If you're not expected Ace to be here, you're in the wrong room. And we would like to someone volunteer for a minute taker. Okay, good. So we got one. Thank you. Any JavaScript? Okay, right, good. And then Marco is gonna take the relay.
No, he's going to do that.
Okay. Okay, so your neighbor is gonna do the relay. So let's start. You want to take the mic, Jim?
No.
So, please, the note wells. We have to show the slide.
No, I don't have to know what slide,
Mm.
unless you do share slides.
No.
Yeah, mine is the share slide.
Well, so this session is under Notewell. Is there anyone that is not aware of the Notewell? If you're not, you can search that on your favorite search engine. Document status updates. Well, documents that have been updated are going to be presented today. And anything you want to add?
So basically, since we met last time, all of the documents that we had been working on have now gone to the area director. And if the area director was here, which he seems to have decided not to show up, the first thing I do is be saying, so Ben, when are we actually get AD reviews on these documents? Which he's going to say, well, he started on the first one.
So have just a moment. Have we indicated?
I can't hear you.
Have we indicated a priority?
And priority has been indicated to him, which is the proof of possession, the EST, and then the 4 OAuth documents.
Good. We really have to get this proof of possession thing through.
Yes.
Really.
And he in the data tracker, he has actually moved that into, I'm trying to review it state.
So, Francesca?
Hi everybody, today I'm presenting the key provisioning for group communication using ACE. This is a working group document. Version 2. So a quick recap for if you haven't seen this before. These documents specify how to use the ACE framework and profiles to provide authentication, authorization, and key distribution to nodes joining a group. So the first part of the exchange here is a message flow from the document. The first part, the client is a node that wants to join the group, contacts the AES through the ACE or does an ACE exchange with the AES and the KDC. Posts authorization token to the KDC. KDC stands for Key Distribution Center. And then afterward, contacts the KDC to get the keys. So this through a key distribution request and response. After that, it has the keys in place to protect the communication with the other group members through a dispatcher. This dispatcher can be, for example, a broker if we're talking PubSub, or it could be just a multicast. So first of all, status update of version 2, and I'm going to go through this update quickly, but we would like some feedback from the working group. All these updates come from review by Jim, so we have implemented these changes based on his review, and he has signed off on those updates. So the first one, we added procedures for updating and renewing key materials that were previously missing. We added a type to the key distribution request. So this type indicates if the key distribution is a join request. So when the node first joins the group, it's a leave request if it's the node is telling the distribution center that it's actually leaving the group, and it causes rekeying for the current group members. There is the update type for the key distribution, which is the node requests the most updated or current key material. Then new, if the node wants to retrieve new key material for itself. And then pub keys, if it wants to request one or more public keys of current group members. So these were already there, just we added this type that makes it simpler to see what request is. Karsten?
Carsten, have you considered restifying that?
Have we considered what?
Restifying it?
Can you expand? What do
Well, this is a set of verbs you have there, join, leave, update, new. And of course, in REST, we usually do this over resources. So we create resources, delete resources, observe resources to get updates.
We haven't considered that. If you have suggestions on what terms are better, but this is for a new field in the request that is called type, and this
Yes.
type will take some values, and we define here what the values mean. So
Yes.
yeah, we can discuss.
So this is an example. Requesting the current most updated key material. Do I do this once a second, or usually we try to model this as an observe, if possible, and that's easier to do if it's already a REST interface.
Mhm. Yeah.
Hi, Francesca. Robin Wilton. Just a really quick question. When an operation such as in this case leave causes this KDC to rekey for the current group members, is there a may, should, or must tell the group members that that rekeying is happening?
So it's a must. So the key distribution center must rekey. Yeah. And we don't. This document doesn't specify exactly how this rekey happens. Yeah, maybe Marco wants to say something more.
Well, I don't think that was quite their question.
Okay, sorry.
My fault. My point is, if the KDC must update the keys for a group, are the members of that group told that the rekey is happening?
It depends what is the rekeying, like what is used for rekeying. It could be an observer, or it could be just a unicast or multicast, depending what is set up. This draft stays general, so it doesn't define exactly. So, yeah.
Marco from RISE, just to complement on this, it's left to the application the very final decision, depending on if you really care about preserving forward security in case of leaving nodes. If you do, you must do that, definitely. It does depend on your working scheme.
And how it's done as well. Okay. So other updates. We have added additional fields for negotiating the format of the public key to use. So this is done in the 201 response to token post in the ACE exchange. We added a proof of possession signature of a nonce from the client to the key distribution center in the key distribution request, because we are also sending this public key. We added requirements on profiles of this document, such as multicast and pubsub. So this is an appendix saying what the profiles of this document have to implement. We define the application profile. So here we need these details additionally to this document to be able to implement this. And this is different from the ACE profiles that we call transport profiles that are used in the first phase of the exchange. Then we define the default for the format of parameters and some IANO registration with labels and expanded on security considerations. So following the some reviews of version 02, we have a couple of open points we would like to discuss today. The first one is about scope. So right now, scope is defined in this document is defined as CBOR array of 2 elements, group ID in, for example, multicast, or a topic for PubSub, and then one or an array of roles. So you can see in the example, in our case, we have array topic 1 and then array of publisher subscriber. MQTT defines something similar in a different format, so it allows for multiple scopes and multiple roles. And we got a question from Jim that was, should we allow multiple scopes in the same access token as, for example, MQTT does? And to answer this question, we have to look at the actual application profiles. For example, if you're talking about multicast and multicast using OSCO or GroupCom, then no, because there is a one-to-one mapping between the scope and the security group. If we're talking about PubSub, then yes, it can make sense because you may want to use the same security material for different topics. So if we do want to do this, what does this mean? Our proposal is to allow multiple scopes, which can be useful in certain use cases. For example, not in multicast and OSCO are used, but for PubSub. That means that we would add an array for the first element of the scope, so we would allow several topics. Also, Jim noticed that there is no need for sending the request. Right now, the key distribution request was sent to a URI associated to the topic. So since the topic is contained in the access token, that is not needed. Or sorry, in the key distribution request, that is not needed. And instead, this key distribution request can be sent to a fixed group URI rather than one associated with the scope. And the scope can be made mandatory in the key distribution request. So, for example, here in the figure, you would see that this key distribution request is sent to this path group key, and then under the group key, there is a resource handler that is going to redirect the key distribution request to the right topic depending on the scope contained in the message. So I think we discussed this with Jim. He seemed to be okay with this. If anybody sees a problem with this.
Peter van der Stok, just a technical detail to avoid confusion. Why not define the scope in the 2 documents, one for the group and the other for the PubSub? Because if you do it in one document, I'm sure some people will
Sorry, why don't define?
Why not define the scope in the 2 documents, one for the group membership and the other for the PubSub, and leave it open in this draft?
There are some things that need to be specific to the 2 documents. For example, the values of roles here for PubSub would be publisher, would be a text string with publisher and subscriber. But it can be the same in both. There is really no reason to have it different. Like the format of the scope can be the same. Do you see a reason not to have it? I think it would be easier actually to have the same format.
So just clarification, do you want the scope at 2 different places is the same format, or do you keep one place?
No, we're defining the only format there is about scope in the document, yeah.
I understand that you defined in this document that it is an array of 2 elements, and that the second element can be so many elements. That I understand.
Yeah.
But in the factual documents that you can use it for topic, you can have several of these group key. No, how did you mind it? Topics. Yeah, okay, so several topics. That the format looks that is differently used than for the group management. I think that should be separate than in the documents. Otherwise, it gets confusing.
Okay.
I mean, okay.
Maybe we should take this offline so you can tell me that. But I take it that you think it's confusing, but you don't think it's it's going to create a problem. Yeah. Okay, but let's continue. Some more open points. So right now, the document specified it's C signs and nonce 1 that is generated by the KDC for pop and pub key. And Jim suggested that we add a second nonce 2, that is signed together with nonce 1 and sent to the KDC in the key distribution request. That seems like a good proposal, so we would go ahead and implement that unless there are comments. Another open point, and we would like the opinion of the auth experts here, is about registering new parameters, because right now we have 2 new parameters that we are using in the token post and in the response to the token post. And right now we're registering in the AS creation hints registry, which is, we were told, the wrong place to do it. And Jim suggested that we register them in the OAuth parameters registry, and then we add the OAuth parameters CBOR mappings.
Mike Jones, Microsoft. I agree with Jim.
Okay, sounds good. Also, I don't know if anyone is monitoring Jabber, but I assume that Ludwig can just go in the mythical queue if he wants to comment as well. Okay, thanks. Great, so we'll go ahead and do that. Yeah, we might have more questions for the OAuth people because we don't know if we need to specify more details as these are parameters specific to ACE and this document. But final question, another comment from Jim was the format of keys could be the same as the one used in the CNF field. So we would do this modification. Doesn't change much. It's just an update to do. Then we have a couple more points that are about rekeying. So what the document says about rekey is that, so this goes back to the discussion we were having before about updating, etc., rekeying. So the KDC should renew the key material upon group membership change and should provide it to the current group members through the rekeying scheme used in the group. So right now we define how the C can get a new key material, and we say alternatively, the redistributional key material can be initiated by the KDC. Otherwise, the default mechanism will be the client sends a request to the KDC asking for new key material. If the redistribution key material is initiated by the KDC, we don't know what endpoint should the KDC use to send the rekeying messages. And we don't know if this is in scope of this document, but we think it should be. And our proposal to solve this is to define a new optional parameter called rekeying URI or something else, if you have a better idea, in the key distribution request. And the client used this parameter to tell the KDC what URI it should use for sending unicast request messages back to the client. So in this case, the client would take the role of a server and is telling the KDC that would take the role of a client to what endpoint to send these new keys. Carsten.
Yeah, this is the point where
Yeah.
I need to repeat my request, maybe looking at a REST-like interface for that.
There is one possible reason why this is better than a RESTful interface, and that is the server can do confirmation that the client's got it rather than just doing an observe back. So you can say, so that if the server could send a con message to each of the recipients.
Yes, you can do that with observe too. You don't get a response from the receiver that they actually liked it or something. But
So Yeah, I think that that is listed as one of the options as well. So I think these are not things that go against each other. It's more like alternatives.
Yeah, alternatives are bad.
But this is a general document, and then the specific application profile needs to define exactly which mechanism to use.
Yeah, but why open a box of many alternatives? I mean, alternatives are bad because they all need to be implemented. They all need to be interoperability tested.
No, they don't.
Well, they do. If you offer them and somebody picks them up, you have to.
This document is not implementable by itself. It needs a profile that specifies the details. And one of these details is how do you do the rekeying and the updating. Yeah.
So until a profile comes along that really needs this, why do it?
Okay. Note taken. Okay, so second point, another alternative mentioned for rekeying is with multicast messages. And the client would not know what IP multicast address he needs to listen to for rekeying. So the proposal is to define a new optional parameter, rekeying URI, in the key distribution response. And the client, that should be the DC uses this parameter to listen for rekeying messages. Or yeah, the client uses this parameter to listen for rekeying messages, but it's the KDC that sends it. So I think we will go ahead and implement these proposals if there are no strong objections, and then we are happy to get feedback and reviews and comments about this. I think that's
When you mention implement,
I mean, like put in the document,
okay.
update the document with this. Yeah, that's.
I'm a bit unclear about this restification. What's going to be the impact on the current document to restify that? If we do.
Well, I think the answer to that question is probably some text changes, but I can't answer it in more detail. I would have to check it.
Okay.
Okay, so before giving the floor to Marco, you can switch to the. So this is a slide from the PubSub application profile, because we got these questions a couple of times. So there are these 3 documents, the one I just presented, the ACE key group com, and then there are 2 additional documents, the COA PubSub profile and the ACE key group com OSCORE and the profile. And we get this question, how is this document different from the ACE key group com? It looks like duplicated text and I don't see what it adds. So now I'm trying to answer that question. Basically, the ACE key group com, the one I just presented, defines a general message format for authorizing and providing keys to group members in the context of group communication. It does not specify for what communication transport protocol or what security is used with this. The ACE COA PubSub profile defines specific content of ACE key group com to profile to use it with COA PubSub and COSI. So it's using COSI to protect the content of the publication, and it's using COA PubSub. And the ACE key group com OSCOREs define the specific content and format of the general one to use it with co-op group communication, RFC 7390, and using OSCORE group com as security. That's it. That's the difference between these 2. Questions?
Peter van der Stok. It's the same remark I made just a few minutes ago. I have to go from one document to the other, parse 4 lines, go back, parse 4 lines in the other documents, and that's the way I make progress, and it's
So
a bit embarrassing.
why are these separated like this? Because when I first came here with the co-op ABSA profile, and that contained everything in one document, and then I was told, oh wait, this is a group communication profile, and you can reuse this with OSCORE group communication and with co-op group communication. And I said, okay, let's do that. Then I split that up and I said, you can reuse this with group communication, but you need to structure it differently. So I can only do one. We need to decide if we want to do one document with all the profiles, or we want to do several with a more structure in a different way. So like I did this because of a comment from the working group. Then we can improve for sure on duplicate text. Hopefully we can improve on not repeating text and making it clear. But we need to decide on a direction. So I think this is the better direction. Otherwise, we would have a huge document with a lot of different things in it, where you would have to jump from one section to the other. So that's it.
Which one is this you're doing?
Hi, Marco Tiloca from RISE. An update on this application profile of ACE as a special instantiation of the draft Francesca just presented. This is version 2, also working group document. Quick recap, but you should be familiar with the main model right now. This is about authorizing nodes to join a group where communication is secure using group OSCORE, and through the join process getting the key material necessary to communicate in the group. So as a first step, a client asks for an access token to the AS. The token is posted to the group manager, which is the KDC of the general model, and in the response it gets back the key material, and then can use group OSCORE to talk to the other group members. What is out of scope of this document is authorization for the client to access resources at the very group members. Hint, that's the next presentation. And the actual secure communication in the group, well, that's just group OSCORE. A few updates from previous version, mostly based on the review we got from Jim on the previous version of the document, and from Ludwig on the latest submitted document. Most of the things are aligned, of course, to the corresponding updates on key group com that Francesca presented. So some renaming of roles and profile name, the use of data structure essentially to negotiate parameters on signature algorithms and such between the joining node and the group manager. Improve text about provisioning of public keys from the joining nodes and the consistency checks that the group manager has to perform on them. Also considering the case when possibly the group manager already has, from previous interactions with the joining node, its public key. We also extended the negotiation on these public key related parameters, and you have fundamentally two approaches to do that, at least really embeddable into ACE, so that can happen during the token post and response or during the join request and response. So it's more ask for information versus trial and fail. Also, we included the proof of possession of the client's private key that we have to slightly improve, as Francesca mentioned, and I'll mention in the following slide. We have a few open points on these things soon. Speaking of which, I mentioned already